Welcome back to Takeout. Welcome to the Conversation Corner. Always happy to be here. You know I love hanging out here. New series of essays, former presidents, politicians, and historians are honoring past presidents and select first ladies to celebrate the upcoming 250th anniversary of the United States. On Monday, former President George W. Bush wrote about another George, our nation's first president. Interestingly, the only president to seek election and re-election without a party identification. Name, of course, George Washington. Colleen Shogun started the series, dubbed In Pursuit, joins us now. I'm so glad to have you here. She was the first woman to serve as the National Archivist. Well, that was until President Trump fired her unceremoniously and without explanation last year, which was quite technically a violation of the law. Colleen, it's great to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
You've moved on beyond that, but do you want to say anything about that experience in your life?
I think you summarized it pretty correctly, but, you know, it was disappointing. But I think the really main thing for me was, what was I going to do after this? And we knew that we had the nation's 250th anniversary that was, you know, barreling down towards us. And I got a phone call from the organization More Perfect, which is a bipartisan alliance of presidential sites and presidential foundations across the country and civic organizations. And they told me about this project, gave me a brief overview of it. And, you know, I'm a presidential scholar. That's what I did as a political scientist. And so I was very excited about it. And after a few conversations, I said, sign me up. And I got back into the game.
What can people expect from this series, In Pursuit?
Well, we're going to be delivering short essays every week. We started this week, and we'll go all the way through December on presidents and first ladies. And what we're trying to do is figure out what are the most important, relevant lessons we can learn from our nation's past that are important to us today about democracy, about character, about leadership.
And about mistakes and how we learn from mistakes. We are not a mistake-free country. We've done and achieved many great things. I say that all the time. But we've also made mistakes.
Yes.
And as anyone who has a made mistake in a public arena will tell you, you learn more from those sometimes than the successes.
I think we're going to learn as much and maybe more from the essays, but from our presidents that we might consider to be more of a failure or those that struggled.
You know, I am always amazed when I look back at the history of Herbert Hoover, who approached the presidency probably with the best skill set of anyone to approach that job in the history of the American presidency. And yet he was overwhelmed by the task, literally overwhelmed by it. He wrote about it quite poignantly. That's also instructive to me, it seems.
Yes, George Nash is writing the essay on Hoover. And the important thing about Hoover, I think, not unlike me, is not just how, you know, the presidency maybe not the best fit for him, but afterwards he also has a great second act, William Howard Taft, written by Chief Justice Roberts. The presidency was not the best place for Taft. Actually, his wife was the one that wanted him to be president. But then after he leaves the presidency, he becomes the Chief Justice of the United States and builds the entire infrastructure of the federal judiciary and actually literally builds the Supreme Court building. And what a great story, how inspiring that sometimes the position that you think that is going to be the culmination of your career, it turns out it's the next thing that actually is the most important.
Do you interact with the folks who are writing the essays? Is that part of the fun?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yes, that's part of the fun. I, field a lot of questions, but I don't tell people what to write. Absolutely. That's up to them. They come up with the interpretations and the lessons they want to feature.
So you're not part of an editorial board that rewrites them or redrafts them or send them back with notes?
Well, we do have editors, and I do work with the editors, but we try to make sure that we're certain that their voice is coming out in it. We're not changing lessons or changing interpretations. We're just making sure that it's the best presentation possible.
And how is this gauged with the mindset of those Americans most either in need of this or possibly in silent ways hungry for it, America's youth?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I think we have a civics problem in the United States today. The statistics are not very good. We know that, less than a quarter of 8th graders are proficient in civics, and unfortunately, even fewer are proficient in American history. So we have these essays that are going to be going out, and they're available for anybody to read, but we're also working with top civics organizations like the Bill of Rights Institute, iCivics, and C-SPAN in order to provide teacher lessons and short videos that kids can consume so they can learn about our nation's history alongside us.
And very quickly, to stay away from the volatile present, no essays on Joe Biden or Donald Trump.
No, and that's because really, as you know, as a political scientist working alongside with historians, we need a little bit of time to be able to put those presidencies in perspective.
Yeah.
And so that's not appropriate, I think, for at this moment in time.
We all need some time. Colleen Shogun, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Very great to have you here.